In 1954, in a narrow brick row house in Scranton, Pennsylvania, a widow of 2 years sat at her kitchen table on the first of the month and cut her Social Security check into piles with her fingers. $45 to cover a house, a winter, and a body that was getting older. The rent took 28 of it, and what was left had to do everything else. Not helpless, not waiting on a man, not the frail, forgotten thing the magazines wanted you to picture. She ran that household on the arithmetic of a bookkeeper, and she stretched every one of those dollars until it begged. Almost everything you picture about the 1950s widow living alone is wrong. Number 23 saved her close to a week of groceries every single month, and I would bet most of you have the modern version of it sitting in your kitchen bin right now. Number 9 is the account that paid her nothing at all, and that was exactly why she wanted it. And number 1 is not a trick at all. It is the one thing every other trick on this list was quietly built to protect. She did not inherit the pension, she inherited the picture of the poor old widow. Hit subscribe, because what you are about to hear is not the tidy, helpless 1950s the sitcoms sold you. This is the widow as the bank passbooks, the census takers, the mail-order catalogs, and the women who lived it actually remember her. Quieter, shrewder, and far stranger than the legend. Let us count down. Number 25, the doubled recipe and the cold shelf. The picture the advertisers loved showed a woman cooking one bright, fresh meal a night. The record is colder and smarter. A widow alone cooked once and ate 3 or 4 times, banking the rest in the icebox and stretching a soup bone across a week. Ground beef ran about 55 cents a pound in the mid-50s, and cooking once instead of buying fresh 3 times saved over $1 a week, better than $50 a year on one habit. She was not lazy. She had done the math the magazines never printed. Number 24, the letter instead of the call. The nostalgia reel shows a woman gossiping happily into a shiny new telephone. The record shows her reaching for a 3-cent stamp. A 1-ounce letter cost 3 cents until 1958, but a 3-minute call from the East Coast to California ran about $2.50. She wrote her sister 2 pages for 3 cents and kept the $2.50 week after week. It is the reason the shoebox of letters, not a phone bill, is what her grandchildren inherited. Number 23, the windowsill regrow. Here is the one most of you drop in the bin. The picture-perfect kitchen bought every vegetable fresh. She did not. She kept the root ends of green onions, the base of a celery heart, the sprouting eye of a potato, and set them in a saucer of water on the sill until they grew back. Regrowing off scrap she had already paid for shaved $1 or $2 off the produce bill every week, and across a month that came to very nearly a week of her groceries. Not a fad. A depression habit she never unlearned. Number 22, the darning egg. The ad showed a woman buying new socks in a crisp department store. The widow had no husband and no such budget, so she owned a smooth wooden darning egg and rebuilt the heel of a worn sock instead of throwing it out. A pair of nylons ran $1 or more, and a woman who darned instead of replaced saved several dollars a year. She did not see a hole as trash. She saw 20 minutes of work she already knew how to do. Number 21, the boarder in the spare room. The magazines painted the woman alone as lonely and idle. The census records tell a shrewder story. A widow with an empty bedroom rented it out, and with rent on a plain non-farm dwelling running around $42 a month, a single boarder paying even 1/3 of that covered half of what she owed her own landlord. She did not just save money. She manufactured income out of a room that was sitting empty without ever leaving the house. Number 20, the second life of everything. The picture sold you disposability. Buy it, use it, throw it away, buy it again. She saved bacon grease in a tin for frying, turned flour sacks into dish towels, and washed out wax paper to use twice. Coffee ran around 80 cents a pound at the start of the decade and well over $1 by 1954, so she pulled a weaker second pot out of the same grounds rather than pour money down the drain. Every one of these reuses was invisible, and that is exactly why the advertisers hated it. Number 19, the payphone code. The advertisements showed a laughing woman with the whole country a phone call away. The record shows widows and their far-off children working out signals to dodge the phone company entirely. She would place a person-to-person call asking for herself by a made-up name. The family would decline the charge, and everyone knew that meant she had arrived safely. Not a scam on anyone. A free signal squeezed out of a system that charged $2.50 for 3 minutes of talk. Number 18, the cash-only rule. The sitcom family charged the new television and the new dinette set on easy monthly terms. She would not. A widow on a fixed benefit new installment interest was the fastest way to lose a household, so she bought only what the tin could cover in full. When close to half of car buyers in that era still paid outright, she was not old-fashioned. She refused to hand a lender the margin she needed to eat, and she never paid $1 of interest to anyone. Number 17, the kitchen garden and the canning jars. The advertisers wanted her at the grocery counter buying cans with bright labels. Instead, she grew tomatoes, beans, and greens in the back lot and put them up in glass mason jars for winter, jars she washed and refilled year after year. A can of tomatoes was a dime, so 3 dozen jars of her own came to better than $3, never spent. And on her budget, $3 was close to a week of eating. She traded a summer of work for a winter of eating. Number 16, the swap circle. The picture showed each tidy household buying its own everything. The record shows widows trading instead. Eggs for jam, mending for a ride to church, a Sunday roast for a bushel of apples. No cash changed hands and no store took a cut. It looks quaint until you notice it was a shadow economy running on trust, and it let a woman with a slim monthly check live as though she had far more, because half of what she needed never touched $1. Number 15, the hand-me-down remade. The catalog wanted a new dress every season, and a little girl's dress ran nearly $3, real money on a fixed income. So she turned a worn adult coat into a child's coat, let out a hem, moved a button, and made one good wool garment last a decade across 2 or 3 wearers. She was not too poor for pride. She put her pride into the seam instead of the store receipt. Number 14, the whole chicken, nose to tail. The glossy ad showed neat packaged cuts. She bought the whole bird at around 50 cents a pound, roasted it, boiled the carcass for broth, and picked every last scrap for a second and third meal. Nothing went in the bin. 3 meals and a pot of soup out of one purchase was not thrift for show. On a month where food money ran to a few dollars a week, it was the difference between the arithmetic working and not working. Number 13, the library instead of the newsstand. The magazines she was fighting cost money by the issue, and a subscription was a line item she could not justify. So she read them all for free at the public library, along with the newspaper she would otherwise have bought daily. A paper and a couple of magazines a month came to several dollars a year, real money against $45 a month. She got the same words everyone else paid for, and the library never sent her a bill. Number 12, the cold house and the banked stove. The picture sold central heat humming in every room. The reality was a single coal stove and a house kept deliberately cool, with heat only where she sat. Anthracite ran around $25 a ton, delivered in the mid-50s, and 3 tons across a winter came to $75, nearly 2 months of everything she had. Heating 1 room instead of 6 was not stinginess. It was the largest single cut available to her. Number 11, the egg money kept separate. The nostalgia reel folded every dollar into one happy household pot. She did the opposite. Any small income of her own, a few dozen eggs sold to a neighbor, a bit of sewing, a boarder's rent, went into its own tin, never mixed with the check that paid the bills. Keeping it separate meant she always knew to the penny what was truly discretionary. It is the principle a budgeting app charges you for today, run on an empty coffee can and a good memory. Number 10, the marked down hour. The advertisers wanted her at the fresh morning display at full price. She waited. She learned the exact hour the butcher and the baker cut prices on what would not survive the weekend, day-old bread, meat near its turn, and she shopped only then. A loaf was about 14 cents new and day-old was a fraction of that, so across a year of never paying full price, she banked several dollars on bread alone. Not too proud to buy yesterday's loaf, too smart to buy today's. Number 9, the Christmas club she treated as a vault. Here is the account that paid her nothing. The Christmas club was a bank account, popular right through the 50s, where you deposited a fixed small sum every week, and the bank locked it until late in the year. It earned almost no interest at all, and the friction was the entire point, because she could not rate it on a whim. $1 a week is $52 by November, more than a full month's income out of pocket change. She did not want a return. She wanted a wall. Number 8, the mended appliance. The picture sold replacement. New toaster, new iron, new everything. She called the repairman or fixed the frayed cord herself because a good appliance was a serious purchase, and throwing one out over a 2-cent part was unthinkable. An item kept running 15 years instead of 5 is 2 purchases she never had to make. She valued the thing she owned, and the advertisers could not sell her a second one. Number 7, the powdered and the day-old dairy. The bright ad showed fresh whole milk delivered daily to the step. Milk was one of her largest grocery costs at well over 80 cents a gallon, so she cut it. She used powdered for cooking and baking, saved the fresh for drinking, and bought day-old when the dairy marked it down. Mixing half powdered into her cooking milk could nearly halve that line of the budget week after week. It was exactly what her ledger needed. Number 6, the guarded front door. The nostalgia machine painted the door-to-door salesman as a friendly fixture of the neighborhood. To a woman alone, he was a threat to her budget, and she treated him as one. A firm no through a chained door. No vacuum, no encyclopedia set, no easy payment subscription. She knew the whole business model was built on catching a lonely woman in a soft moment. Refusing to open the door was the cheapest financial decision she made all week. Number 5, the account in her own name. The picture assumed every account, every deed, every policy sat under a husband's name. The widow who survived best kept a bank account and the house title in her own name and her own control. This was not vanity in an era when a woman's median income sat around $1,000 a year against a man's roughly $3,300. It was armor. The tin under the bed was for pennies. The account in her own name was so that no relative, no suitor, no salesman could move her money without her. Number 4, the funeral paid in advance. This one the sitcoms would never show. A practical widow, having buried a husband and seen the bills, quietly prepaid her own burial in small installments so the cost would never land on her children. A decent funeral in that decade ran into the hundreds of dollars, and the modest lump sum Social Security offered toward burial came nowhere near it. She knew that, so she covered it herself, a little at a time, without a word of complaint. Number 3. The meticulous ledger. The magazine housewife was pictured as sweet and vague about money. The widow alone kept a running ledger in a 5-cent notebook. Every dime in, every dime out, balanced to the penny at the end of each month. She could tell you what she had spent on coal in February 2 years prior. That notebook is why she never bounced a payment on a fixed check, kept in pencil at a kitchen table by a woman the ads assumed could not add. Number 2, the emergency tin she never touched. The advertisers wanted every spare dollar spent this week on this year's new thing. She wanted a floor under her feet, so she kept a separate tin, often buried or tucked behind the flour, holding a few weeks of living expenses she did not touch for anything short of a true emergency. On $45 a month, building even that small cushion took years of shaving pennies off every item on this list. That tin was why a broken furnace never became the end of her independence. Here is the challenge. Before I tell you number 1, look back at the 24 tricks you just heard. The darned socks, the buried tin, the account in her own name, the funeral paid off $1 at a time. Ask yourself what they were really for. Not the coal, not the groceries, something underneath all of it. Number 1. Independence. It was never about the pennies. Every darned sock, every regrown onion, every dollar in the Christmas club, and every dime in the pencil ledger existed to buy her the one thing a woman alone in that decade was told she could not have. The right to stay in her own house, on her own terms, beholden to no man, no relative, and no bank. On $45 a month, with a country quietly expecting her to move in with a son or remarry for security, she engineered her own freedom out of scraps and refusals. That was the trick under all the tricks. That was what the tin was really guarding. Drop the trick your mother or your grandmother used to keep her own head above water in the comments below. The coffee can, the darning egg, the day-old bread, the account she opened in secret. I want to know whether her quiet, invisible system would still keep a woman independent on a fixed income in 2026, or whether we traded 100 years of her unglamorous genius for a subscription we forgot to cancel and a bank that charges us to hold our own money. Because these 25 tricks were not thrift for its own sake, not stinginess, not the fussy habits of a woman with nothing better to do. They were the financial survival system of a woman the whole decade quietly expected to become somebody else's burden. The 1950s did not hand us the picture of the helpless widow. The magazines, the advertisers, and the people selling her an easier life did. The real woman counted quieter, planned further, and refused harder than the legend ever admitted. The sitcoms sold her a rocking chair. She bought herself the front door.